Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
So we are going to start with our second module today. Am I audible? Should I put my earphones or it's okay? Fine.
Okay, ma'am. Yes, audible. Audible.
You're audible, ma'am.
You. Here we go. So welcome everyone once again to the business strategy lecture. And from here on, we are going to start with strategic development. I was just seeing the course and the modules and everything, and I think we are lagging behind a little. So let's just hurry up. Now, there are one or two small things that I have left in that 1.3. I don't worry about that. These are very theoretical concepts. Those are very theoretical concepts which I'm going to cover during my sessions. So don't worry. There's 5 P's and all. We'll deal with that. Don't worry. I remember that. Okay, so let's start with strategy development now. So up till now, whatever we have studied was the theory part of it. Theory meaning not really theory, but we were trying to introduce business strategy in a way that we were trying to understand principles of management. We were trying to understand the business environment, and we were also trying to understand what are the tools that are used for business strategy. Now, from here on, we are going to see various models, and we are going to see many models today, which help in designing the strategy. When we start with strategic planning, what are those things which are required to go ahead with the strategy? So we are going to see what is strategic development today. And in this entire module 2, we will be studying the external environment assessment. How do we, because we have been talking about that we generally, whenever we make a strategy, we tend to scan the environment, external environment, internal environment, and then check our resources and then design the strategy. So that is precisely what we are going to do now in the second module. And strategic development is what we are going to see today. These are the various strategic development tools which are used. So we are going to touch upon most of them. I plan to finish this module today. Let's see how it goes. And these are various strategic development tools or models which are there. We have consolidation endgame curve. We are going to understand Porter's 5 forces, BCG growth share matrix, blue ocean strategy, SWOT analysis, pestle analysis, product life cycle, consumer adoption curve, balance scorecard, organizational hurdles, and ocean canary. There are few which are more used. So we are going to go into them into a little greater detail, while ones which are not really used so much, we are only going to see from the definition point of view. So that is there. So like this also speaks about these first 6 frameworks: consolidation endgame curve, Porter's 5 forces, BCG growth share matrix, blue ocean strategy, SWOT analysis, and pestle analysis. These 6 of them focus more on industry and competitive analysis, and they are more used for external analysis. And marketing mix, the 4 of the 7 P's, product life cycle and consumer adoption curve. These 3 frameworks are more product focused, and they rely on more internal strategies. So these first 6, which are in blue, they are used to analyze, do a industry and comparative analysis from more external environment point of view, and the three are more from product, they are more product focused. And you're going to understand all this in a greater detail when we are going to go ahead. So this is our first one. This is consolidation end game curve. Okay. So this is how it looks. This also shows. Now, when we start, everyone knows that most new industries, when they start, or any new enterprise that we start, they are basically fragmented. And they consolidate as they mature. But how does that work exactly? New industries, they are fragmented and they consolidate as they mature. But how does this work? So our long-term analysis of mergers around the globe has found that most of the industries, they progress predictably through a clear consolidation life cycle. There is a clear consolidation cycle, if you will see, most of the industries that you will see. And that companies can plot themselves with some bit of precision where they fall in this cycle. Each industry, each company will figure out, where they lie on this cycle, and accordingly the strategy will be developed. So when so many countries, over the years have been studied, it has been realized that an industry will almost take an average of 25 years to progress through all these four stages. In the past, it took somewhat longer. But in the future, it is going to be extremely fast. Strategy as a concept was taught as a long-term thing. But now the shift in the environment is taking place so fast that every now and then there are remarkable changes that are taking place, and therefore it is difficult to strategize for a very long term. But on an average, if we talk, about this entire consolidation endgame curve, then if a company has to see these all the stages, then it used to take somewhere around 25 years, but that is not the case. It has expedited much more now. And there are four stages. So every company in every industry will go through these four stages, or else it will disappear. Either it will see these stages or it will disappear. So there is an understanding of where in the cycle an industry should be. That will be the cornerstone of a company's long-term strategic plan. So now let's see this. First, stage one is the opening stage. It generally begins when a company is a small startup. Maybe that company is a monopoly because they are, the first entrants into the market. So they are the new ones in the market. So they have the monopoly. Just emerging. Now, when you just start in this phase, then they generally have a first mover advantage. All the companies have the first mover advantage. First mover advantage in building the scale, in creating a footprint for themselves, in gaining the market share, in establishing the barriers to entry, because they have the proprietary on the technology or on the idea. So stage one companies, if the company is in the stage one, generally a startup or a small company, what will it focus more on? It will focus more on revenue than profit, because they have not really started seeing the profit at this point of time. They've just started. So right now the focus will be more on building up the revenue somehow. This is precisely what Jio did. Initially, they were not thinking about profits. They were only thinking about revenue that they could get from the market share. So the acquisition of market share was their main criteria, not making profit. That is why everything was coming at cost zero to us. But that's not a sustainable model. So as they progressed on this consolidation endgame curve, as they matured, as they started moving ahead, their strategy changed. So the strategy that they followed initially, because they were is different from what it is now. Because at that point of time, profit was not the criteria, it was the revenue, and revenue which could only come through, not only revenue, that at that point of time, it was only through market share, expansion of market share, which get translated into revenue and further into profit. So amassing the market share, like very if you initially when the companies when we start offering some product or service, we give this offers that first few birds, early birds offers we'll give, or something like that, just to get the market share. So amassing market share is the biggest that is the focus when you are in this opening stage of business. And of course, acquisition of perfecting their acquisition skills, building up, because it's a building up phase. So I would like to acquire more and more of skills which will be able to better my product or service. And that is precisely what I want at this point of time. And this is key to my success in the next two stages of consolidation. Because if my foundation is strong, if I manage to, and I can only gather market share if I appeal to my customer segments that I am targeting at. If I appeal to them, then only I will be able to amass the market share. So opening stage, market share is the main thing, and acquisition of skill sets. These are the two things which we see at the opening stage. Scale 2, stage 2, which is scaling up. Now I have a considerable amount of market share. That means people know me in the market. I have taken care of all my first mover advantage. I have built up the scale. I have acquired the skills. People know me in the market. And now from here on, I start building up my scale. At this point of time, major players begin to emerge, buying up competitors and forming their empires. So maybe, at this point of time, I am among the top 3 players in the stage 2 in the industry. So if I'm the top 3 players, because at this point of time, seeing my success, maybe other players have also come into the market. because everybody wants to, this is a quick set, jet set stage. The moment anything is liked by the customers, immediately you will find more competition coming in. So at this point of time, maybe, you know, there are more customers, more players, not customers, sorry, more players will emerge, begin to emerge in the market, who will gradually start imitating also, or maybe they will come up with some products which have their own differentiation also, with small little tweaks here and there. But you will see more than one person. So gradually what is happening, your first mover advantage, which was there in the opening stage, that will start getting a little diluted here. So you will have more players in the market, but there are not many players in the market. There would be 2 or 3 players in the market, and they will own the 15 to more, maybe 45% of the market share. And here the industry starts consolidating very rapidly. Typical stage 2 industries could be your airlines, your hotels, your auto suppliers, automotive suppliers. There can be banks, there can be pharmaceutical companies. All these companies, you know, they see this kind of these stages. There might be you know, some kind of acquisitions which are done here, because I have already found my my ground in the opening stage. I might go for some acquisitions. So my merger and acquisition, my merger and integration skills, I would like to I have acquired my skills, but here I would like maybe like to add more. So my merger and integration skills may also come into the picture. I may start carefully protecting my core culture. Why? Because if I am getting more companies into the picture, if more companies are coming into the picture, if I'm sort of integrating with myself with more organizations, if I'm acquiring more, if mergers are happening, then I need to see that I need to protect my core cultures, as as they will get absorbed in the new companies. Focus is also there on retaining my employees at this stage. So basically building a scale. After I built up my scale, I would go to the third stage, which is the focus stage. Here, here the competition becomes more ferocious. So the consolidation of stage 2 and which has happened in stage 2. Here in stage 3, companies generally focus on expanding their core business, and they continue to aggressively outgrow the competition, because here you will find that there is all the more competition which is building up. So companies will start working on their core business, defending your competitive advantage that you have created in 1 and 2 stage. Now you'll start working more aggressively, and as we will see more models, we will realize that at what stage, these are just understand the stages here, and then when we'll start understanding more models, we will understand that at what stage actually what strategy can be used if it is for any product or service. We will get into all that. So here on stage 3, basically the top 2 to 3 industry players will now dominate the market with almost 30 to 70% of the market. And there are generally now 5 to 7, 10 players in the market. There will be mega deals, large scale consolidations. And they will emphasize more on their core capabilities. But here, the focus will be on profitability. And also one more important thing will happen at this stage. The weaknesses in the company have to be eliminated. That is very important at this stage, because increase in profitability can happen in two ways. Increase in profitability can happen by increasing my revenue, and also by seeing that what is weak link in my company, where the leakage is happening. There might be certain, so if you are offering certain things to the customer, and they are, and you've tried it at stage 1, you have tried at stage 2, and in stage 3 still it's not working, then we need to really think, we need to invest more money in this, or we need to let it go. So at a stage 3, my focus has to be profitability, because now there are more players in the market. There will be more of cannibalization that my organization will see. I have to be very, very careful about how to defend my profits. And then we come to stage 4. Here, basically, the titans of the industry will reign supreme. If you see the telecom sector, if you really want to understand this consolidation endgame curve, just see how our telecom industry has moved over the years. If you see 2005, 2006, how many players were there in the market? And if you see the 2000, from 2000 to 2020, if you want to see 20 years, you will understand this consolidation endgame curve. Try and research about it. Try and see how now, at this point of time, when we are into balance and alliance, and if we look at the telecom industry, there are only 3 players left in the market. And if pandemic wouldn't have happened, wherein we all resorted to work from home, and therefore the Airtel also survived and the Vodafone also survived, it would have been only Jio that would have reigned supreme there. It is thanks to this pandemic and work from home that we now see that Airtel and Vodafone are also in the picture. Otherwise, they were running into very heavy losses. They were almost on the brink of closing. At least Vodafone was. And that is why they merged, in the stage 3, moving to stage 4 when they entered into an alliance with Idea. Vodafone Idea merger that took place. So all the industries that you will see, that we have seen, they have all gone through these 4 curves. And at each point, whether they are in whatever stage, they need to see that if they are in the opening stage, if revenue is there and is their focus, if they have to mass market share, their strategy would be built accordingly. The strategy which is there in the opening stage will not be there in the focus stage, because at focus stage, my number of players and my competitors have gone up. I cannot work on very, very wafer thin margins. I need to chop off my weaknesses and work more aggressively on my strengths, because here profitability becomes very important. If I'm not profitable, I will not be able to support my expansion plans. And that is exactly what was happening in telecom industry when Airtel and Vodafone, to give competition to Jio, they had to expand, they had to, and 5G had already come in, they had to buy that wavelengths and everything, and but they didn't have so much of money. So there was a challenge. They had to lay new optic fibers and all those things. There was a challenge there also. So thanks to pandemic, all that started happening. So balance and alliance. So ultimately, a company's long-term success depends upon how it progresses through the stages of this industry consolidation. But here, one thing we need to know, speed is everything. I need to be proactive. A company's long-term success depends on how well it rides on its consolidation curve. Of course, it depends upon manager's competence, which is of paramount importance, particularly during the middle stages of consolidation. Because if we don't work at a alarming alacrity at these stages, then we will not be able to progress further. We will disappear. And there are many telecom companies. If you see, there was Dolphin and there was BSNL and so many other companies which actually dropped off in stage 2 and stage 3. They were not able to sustain themselves. Because slower firms, then they eventually become acquisition targets, and they are likely to disappear. So most companies simply don't survive, won't survive to the end game by trying to stay out of the contest, or worse, by ignoring it. So if we ignore this, or we stay out of this, if we ignore this consolidation end game curve, then end game will not be there. Their game will end somewhere in between only. So this is consolidation end game curve. This many of you must be aware of. This is Porter's 5 forces model. This is again very effective when it comes to scanning the external environment. As you can see, whenever we enter into any industry, I need to see whether I should really enter that industry. So this model, this Porter's 5 forces model, it identifies and analyzes the 5 competitive forces that shape every industry and helps us to determine an industry's weakness and strengths. So 5 forces, Porter's 5 forces model, it identifies and analyzes 5 competitive forces that shape every industry and helps to determine an industry's weakness and its strengths. It is generally frequently used to identify an industry's structure and then determine my corporate strategy. This was made by, designed by Michael Porter. So it's a business analysis model which helps to explain why various industries are able to sustain different levels of profitability. This model actually came in Competitive Strategy. This was a book that was written by Michael Porter in 1980s. Very, very famous book. So these are 5 undeniable forces that play a very important part in shaping every market and industry in the world. Of course, there might be some caveats to it, but generally, by and large, these are the 5 forces that are used. So coming to this, Porter's 5 forces are, one is competition in the industry, because it is because of the competition. Had there been no competition, we would have not, there was no need for us for any analysis. So it is because of the competition, because there are more than one players in the market, because there is competition, that's why we need to analyze. That makes the resources scarce. So therefore we need to see that what are these, this middle block, this one, intense rivalry results from. There are various reasons that they have given. So we need to see, when we are entering into any industry, that how many of these operate and at what levels do they operate, because these create intense rivalry or competition. It is said Number one, numerous or equally balanced competitors. If there are too many competitors in the market, then the rivalry will be more. So I need to see how many competitors are there and what are their strengths and weaknesses. Number one. Number two, is it a slow growth industry, or at what level the industry is growing? We need to see that. One very famous thing, everybody would like to sit in a Rajdhani. Rajdhani is a train, super fast train. So if you are sitting in Rajdhani, you will definitely move at a particular pace. But if you are sitting in a slow train, then you'll obviously move at that pace. So would you like to enter into an industry which is moving slow? Or you want to do something that you add up to the whole sector in such a way, you build up some uniqueness, and then you start moving fast and take the industry in a new dimension altogether. So one needs to see whether it's a slow growth industry or how is it. Then another thing that one needs to see is, what are the strategic stakes? Are the strategic stakes high? I have put all my eggs into the basket, all my resources into the basket, but will they pay off? Lack of differentiation or switching cost. Lack of differentiation. Differentiation means uniqueness. Switching cost means, this is again a term which we will keep using, switching cost. Switching cost is if I have to switch from one product to another. Sometimes there is a lot of effort that goes into it, and sometimes there is no effort. The switch is very easy. Like for example, at one point of time when I had to change my phone, my telecom provider, the numbers used to change, and it was a long drill, and therefore one had to really think whether I really want to change my service provider. But do you think with number portability and everything today, things have become very, very fast. So the switching cost has become very low as a consumer. Between two telecom service providers, there's hardly any switching cost as compared to what it used to be earlier. So it's always in comparison, and this is all relative. So in comparison to past, the switching cost has become very less. So if I enter into the industry, and if with some product which has a very low switching cost, because there are incumbents in the market, there are already too many players in the market, and if the switching cost is low, then the competition becomes all the more, because people will keep moving from one product to another. So to really hold my ground, it becomes very difficult. So would I like to enter in such an industry? All this leads to more and more of competition. Then another thing, high exit barrier. With so much of investment, with so much of capital, I enter into an industry. If it does not work, then what is the cost that I will have to bear in terms of exiting? Like I gave you the example of Onida also. They knew that LED is coming and LCD is coming, but the exit barrier was too high, because the capital that was invested in the whole system was too big for them to make any change. So do I have the bandwidth for that? So all these things, they needs to be seen, all these parameters needs to be seen when it comes to intense rivalry. So there will be intense rivalry if we are able to gauge by looking at all these parameters that what kind of competition I'm entering into. So the larger the number of competitors, along with the number of equivalent products and services that they offer, the lesser the power of the company. And the suppliers, the buyers, they all seek out for a company's competition if they are able to offer a better deal or a lower price. So when competition is competitive rivalry is low, a company has greater power to charge higher price. If there is less competition in the industry, I may be able to charge a higher price and set the term of deals to achieve higher sales and higher profit. But if I'm entering into an industry which already is saturated and it has too much of competition, I will not have that advantage. Either I come up with something really spectacular, which then again that kind of strategic designing would take place. So competition needs to be seen. What kind of competition am I entering into? Then another thing, another dimension. So these are various dimensions that we need, that we can see, we can explore when we are entering into an industry, and which we should, because otherwise we are just going by our gut feel that something is happening and something. This is more. This will give us a more grounded picture of where we are entering. Next dimension of this is threat of new entrants, because this poses in a big way a barrier to entry. So what are those barriers to entry? Number one is economies of scale. The industry that we are entering into, we need to see that can we scale up? Are there, because generally we are operating on shared resources. Resource pool वही है जो है. We are not operating, and this whole idea of strategy and economics and all these subjects also we are studying, because the assumption is that resources are limited, they are scarce. So because it's a shared resources, then how do we operate on economies of scale? Where are we there? Do we know what is economies of scale? Can somebody tell us what is economies of scale? Anybody?
Let me attempt. I may not. Good morning. I may not be able to recollect the formal definition, but I think it is the cost benefit, so to say, on large volumes. So one is both at the purchase side as also like the operational benefit. So anything which is done at a large volume, that itself gives us benefits in terms of cost, in terms of expenses and everything. So for example, if I'm buying from a vendor, a large quantity, that gives me a large this thing. In terms of my business, if I can ramp up the scale, then my operation costs, etc., comes down. So both in terms of expansion and wherever that I earn revenues, if it goes up, then obviously everywhere the cost comes down. So that is, and the ability to ramp up so that I am able to achieve the economy of scale. So scale means obviously anything which is large, which is big in terms of volume. So that gives me the benefits of cost, that gives me the benefits of price, etc.
Yes, very true. So economies of scale is when we start producing more units, and very simply speaking, if we start producing more, as the number of units of my production goes up, my cost comes down. That is economies of scale. So what are the economies of scale? So if I have companies who are already in that industry, who are reaping rich benefits of economies of scale, then, and if I'm entering into that industry, then I need to see whether I can match that and become better. Isn't it? Else there's no point getting into that industry, because if people are already doing their best, whatever that is, I need to see whether I can get more, because if I am able to produce cheap, if my cost of production is whatever minimum it is, then only I can pass that advantage to my consumer. So pricing and all, everything comes into the picture. So I need to see the economies of scale, which becomes a barrier to entry, because there are incumbents who are already operating at a particular level. Another thing is product differentiation. So if the people in the industry, if the companies in the industry, what kind of product features that they have? Am I adding something new to it? Am I adding something different to it? Then only it is worthwhile. What are the capital requirements that I have? Do I have bandwidth for those requirements to have that kind of capital infrastructure built up? Again, the switching costs will be everywhere. Access to distribution channels. Any industry cannot, in any industry, we cannot operate without having proper distribution channels. And every company has their own distribution channels. So before I embark upon any idea and enter into an industry, I also need to see what kind of distribution channels are being used, and where I can, how much I can contribute, what I will use. Like for example, I'll give you this dairy industry. Any dairy industry, it has almost 15 years of gestation period. Their distribution channels are built over a very, very long time. It's a very slow process. If you remember that company Danone, it actually failed. Danone was into yogurts, if you remember. It failed because it didn't have proper products. The incumbent, they were not able to really understand the industry. They were just sourcing a yogurt which was not really, we still have not developed a taste for it. I mean, if you look at the percentage, we are still into milk and curd, the vast percentage. And they didn't offer anything much apart from yogurts. And anything to do with milk industry, dairy industry, they actually work with a backward integration. Backward integration means that they have farms developed for themselves. They own the farms, like Amul has entire Anand facility, cooperative societies, from where they source that thing. Likewise, all the dairy industries, they have some or the other acquisitions, which are only give them a sustained supply of milk. So it takes long for this particular. So if I'm entering that industry, I need to do my checks before. These are barriers to entry. Then government policies. What are the government policies? If I am we use the example of Citibank here. Citibank could have expanded, but the government policy didn't. They have huge resources. They could have just managed to put, instead of 35 branches, 3,500 branches. But did government policy support that? No. So government policy again becomes, and then the expected reaction of incumbents. People who are already there in the market. Sometimes they also create a lot of ruckus if we enter into an industry. So all these things are threat to the new entrants. So we can analyze all this when we are entering into an industry. Then we have bargaining power of buyers, or we can start with bargaining power of suppliers. Supplier group is always powerful. Somebody is supplying to the industry. Somebody will supply us also. So how easily these suppliers can drive up the cost of inputs? It is the suppliers which drive up the cost of inputs. It is affected by the number of suppliers of key inputs of a good or service. How unique these inputs are. how much it would cost a company to switch from one supplier to another. That would also determine, these days there are a lot of suppliers for everything. So we need to see what are the bargaining power of supplier, because basis the bargaining power of supplier, we will understand the cost aspect of inputs. If there are too many suppliers in the market, obviously the cost will be less. The acquisition cost will be less. If the number of suppliers are less, then suppliers can charge more price. Else the organization will have to pay more. So it is like that. So suppliers has more power and can drive up the input cost and push up other advantages also in the trade. When there are many suppliers, or there is again low switching cost between rival suppliers, a company can keep its input cost lower and thus enhance their profit. Now that's a basic thing. Of course, the forward and the backward integration, the words that are being used, we are going to understand that in a little while. Then we have bargaining power of customers, of buyers. A buyer group is also very powerful group. What kind of buyers, what kind of customers am I looking for? So the ability that customers have to drive the price lower, or their level of power, is also one of the ways in which we decide the 5 forces. It is generally affected by how many buyers or how many customers a company has, how significant each customer is, and how much it would cost a company to find new customer or market for its output. When it comes to a small or more powerful customer base, it means that each customer has more power to negotiate for lower prices and for better deals. A company that has many smaller independent customers will have an easier time charging a higher price than charging a little higher price if there are a small segment of customers. So what is the bargaining power of buyers? Generally, if the products are standards or standardized ones, undifferentiated, with not much of uniqueness, then there will be a standard price. So one price will be set and it will be charged that way. If the product that they are buying is not very important, it's not very critical, if it earns a buyer group will again be powerful if it earns a low profit. Then another thing is pressure from substitute products. This also actually acts like a big thing. Substitutes, how many substitutes are available? Substitute goods or services that can be used in place of companies' products or services, they also pose a threat. So companies that produce goods and services for which there is no close substitute will have a more power to increase the prices and lock in favorable terms, because then it is their territory. There is not much of substitutes that are available. But when the close substitutes are available, then customers will have the option to forego buying a company's product, and company's power can be weakened. So if the substitutes, if there are no close substitutes that are available, then the company will have the advantage. But if there are too many substitutes that are available, then the company's power will be weakened. When we decide all this, when we know all this, it is easy for us to decide whether we can enter the industry whether we have the competitive advantage. So looking at this, we have to decide on two things. One is the competitive advantage that I have. Do you think looking at all this, we will be able to understand what is the competitive advantage that we will have? Competitive advantage is nothing but the advantage that I have over my competition. So if I look at this whole framework, somewhere I will know that where is my competition, how much competition is there, where I am, and what advantage I should give. I should build in my in what uniqueness, what differentiation I should build in my model so that I remain competitively advantageous. What is my competitive scope? What is the kind of exit barrier I have? And what are the kinds of entry barriers I have? These four things, if I understand before entering the industry, I will be able to better place myself, better equip myself, and will be having less of shocks. See, strategy when fails, the price that one has to pay is huge. Financial, moral, emotional, every which way. It's a huge loss. So these strategic models, they actually sometimes, we just feel, acha, hame ye karna chahiye. But is it feasible? So these frameworks, they actually somewhere tell us, somewhere they will give a little idea about four things. One is the competitive advantage. Where lies my competitive advantage? The scope, the exit barrier, if I have to exit from this industry, and what are my entry barriers? And before exit, the entry barriers that I have to face, because when I'm working on my entry barriers which are there, then my thought process will start working how to be unique. Because if I'm unique, I will end up entering into any industry at any stage of consolidation curve. If I'm coming up with something different, there are not every time new product or service that comes. No. It is somewhere, it is generally the same. Because human beings' needs are also by and large speaking, they are same or similar. But in that little gap which others are providing and which I can provide, there lies my business opportunity. And these models actually tell us where that opportunity lies and whether I am capable enough to deliver that. So this is Porter's 5 forces model, which we can study to arrive at that. We can listen to this.
Allowing it to offer better ticket deals. This pushed other carriers to spend more to retain their customers. Finally, you still have to fight your existing rivals, and intense competition reduces everyone's profitability. The major airlines have been in this position for years, forcing them to defend increasingly narrow profit margins, with fees for exit row upgrades, checked bags, even snacks. These 5 forces define every industry structure and shape your company's future. Once you understand them, you can make better predictions, create more competitive strategies, and increase your profits.
So it's 9. We'll meet after the break at 9:10, 9:15. 9:15? Okay, so we meet after 9 at 9:15. Thank you.
Ma'am, you have to unmute yourself.
Now this is this is BCG matrix. This is again a four-celled matrix which is developed by BCG USA, and when it is one of the most renowned corporate portfolio analysis tool. It actually provides a graphic presentation, a representation for an organization to examine different businesses in its portfolio. And on the basis of two things, one is related market share and another one is industry growth. These are the two parameters that are used. One is industry growth and the other one is relative market share. What we do is that we try to examine the various products which are there in the business portfolio. Where do they lie? That is a kind of study that we do here. Now, according to this matrix, it's a two-dimensional matrix, and it actually gives you a comparative analysis of the business potential, and it helps in evaluation of the environment. It basically says that any business can be classified as high or low according to their industry growth rate and relative market share. Now, when we talk about this relative market share, it is your SBU sale this year leading to competitors' sales this year. Now, in comparison to competitors' sale, we get the relative market share. What is my sale this year and what is my competitor's sale, that in the year end gives me the relative market share. That is how we define relative market share. And when we talk about market growth rate, it is industry sale this year minus industry sale last year. That is what gives the industry growth. So we don't have to get into the detail of this. We just have to understand what this BCG matrix is all about. So this requires that both measures to be calculated for each SBU. SBU is a strategic business unit. So for example, if it is Britannia, can you tell me what are the strategic business units of Britannia?
So they are into cookies, the biscuits, the cakes.
Yes.
So each unit, whatever they are producing, will be SBU.
Is the Britannia's SBU. Likewise, Dabur has its various kinds of SBUs. Most of the companies, and basis these products, we decide the segmentation, the target market, we do the branding, we do the positioning. All that is done basis these SBUs which are there. So you have your Britannia biscuits, you have Britannia milk, you have Britannia curd, you have Britannia butter, you will have Britannia Little Hearts, you will have Britannia bread, you will have milk bickies, you will have bourbon, you will have Nutri-Choice. All these are different. All these are different products. They are different children of Britannia. And each one will have a different and a distinct market strategy. And they will somewhere lie on this BCG matrix. So now we are going to see how this BCG matrix works. Just 1 minute. So this is the cash cow. What is a cash cow? There would be some products in the organization, in the company's portfolio, which are low on industry growth, but relatively have a high market share, low market share, sorry. So this is low and this is high, this is low, this is high. So low industry growth and low market share. Stars are high industry growth but low market share. Question marks are high industry growth and high market share. And dogs are low industry growth and so let's look at stars now first. Stars represent, these are stars. Stars in any company's portfolio, they represents, in any business units, represents large market share in a fast growing industry. Now, when a company, now you tell me, if a company is having a large market share in a fast growing industry, what do you think will be what will be the status of that particular product in terms of profitability and revenue generation? Anybody? Just try and see what it is. Star represents business units, I repeat, having large market share in a fast growing industry. So relative market share moves like this, low to high, and industry growth is low to high. So a star has market share is big and it is having a large market share. So what do you think? It will generate cash? Will it generate cash? Anybody can answer.
Ma'am, pehle revenues, they will see if they are the startups and all, and then
Sorry?
they will go ahead.
Sorry?
If it is a startup company, then it will be more of revenue generation. They will look at for the star products.
No, so let's clear one thing. It's a company which has various products in its portfolio. This company is trying to place its products. Now, if we remember when we were talking about focus when we were in consolidation end game curve, when we were looking at focus, the stage 3, I said that we have to essentially look at profitability. Okay, because either I'm profitable or I'm not. Number of players in the market are more. And at that point of time, whatever weaknesses I have to give away with them. So here I'm trying to analyze my portfolio and seeing through the BCG matrix that what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses in my portfolio. Say, for example, I'm any XYZ company, I'm Dabur. So I'm trying to see that what all products I have in my portfolio and where do they lie. So that is the kind of exercise that I'm doing. So if I'm a star, if one of my product is a star, that means it has a big market share and it is in a fast growing industry. So that particular product of mine, will it generate cash?
Ma'am, I will give the example.
Haji.
Yeah. So now Amul is targeting cold drink industry and they are trying to sell the product of Amul Lassi and they are saying India ka cold drink. So the industry of cold drink is far more different and they are trying to project. So comparatively, they are trying to show it as a new product. So Amul Masti Chas or Lassi. So those two products, we can consider them as star because they are spending huge advertising thing or advertising budget to capture some of the cold drink industry.
Okay.
So,
So is it a star or is it a cash cow?
It's a star right now. It was initially a cash cow for some of the reasons because it was there in the market, but they were not advertising. Like if you consider Amul butter, it's a cash cow. Whenever you will go, you will increase the production, you will get a fixed amount of revenue and such kind of things they are there.
Yes. So
stars,
yeah.
Yeah, it happens like for 6 months, a product can be a cash cow and it can become a star. But generally question marks might get eliminated straight away if people don't like that particular thing.
Okay, fine. So let's understand the fundamental. This is an example. So we'll come to the examples, but let's understand the fundamental of this. Now, if any star represents business, I again repeat, star represents a business unit having large market share in a fast growing industry. Now, they may generate cash, but because it's a fast growing market, stars generally tend to require huge investments. Okay. All your star products, because it's the market share is more and it's a fast growing industry, they will generate cash because the market share is more, they will generate cash. One. Second thing is they will require a lot of investment to maintain their lead. Now, net cash flow out of this will be usually very modest. Why? Because there is huge investment also simultaneously which is getting into it. To keep that pace, it's a fast growing industry. I need to put in more money there. If I have to put that more money into that particular product to sustain that product in the market and so that my market share remains intact, I will need to put in a lot of money there. So the end result, end profitability may not be that high from a star product. Are you getting me? So the net cash flow out of a star product may not be very high. It will be modest. So SBUs which are located in this particular quadrant, they are highly competitive in the industry. It's a very robust, if it is a robust industry, and the products that lie, the products in the portfolio that lie in this quadrant, they are very attractive. They have a future. I will keep putting in money here and I will keep reaping benefits because it's a fast growing. I gave you the example of Rajdhani. If you're sitting in Rajdhani, you will go ahead. You are ready to pay a more price for that because you're sitting in a Rajdhani. So you're going fast. So I would like to become a part of that particular product. I would like to retain that product and have that product in my portfolio. It's my star because I can see my future. A child who's studying very well, you would like to invest more money very willingly into and very happily because you know that eventually this child will give me great returns. So while as a parent, I will be doing it for all, but here the parent is the organization. I will be doing it for all. But if the child is really performing well and they have picked up the right stream, then it is like, I would really like to support that person, come what may. So that is my star. If successful, a star has the chances of becoming a cash cow when the industry matures. So I would keep putting my money into my star child. Next comes the cash cow. Cash cow generally represents business units having a large market share in a mature but a slow growing industry. So my market share is high, but it's a slow growing industry. So cash cow generally requires little less investment, but they keep generating cash, which can be utilized. Now, why I need cash cows in my portfolio? My portfolio should have all, generally has all. So if I need cash cow because it's a slow growing industry and I have peaked there, I've reached my saturation there. Now the money is coming. Like Amul butter. It's there. It's there since ages. It's a cash cow. So it will keep generating cash because to support my star products, I need to plow in money from somewhere. So it's the cash cow, which is a low maintenance area. And from there, the money will go to star quadrant. So cash cows generally end up supporting the entire industry. Low maintenance, but large market share. These SBUs, which are your cash cow, they are actually the key source of cash. And they are specifically the core business. Generally, it's the core business. They are base of an organization. They generally follow all those strategies which are used to, which follow stability. And when cash cow lose their appeal and moves towards deterioration, then the organization is in a problem. So in my portfolio, I need to have some cash cows which actually helps me sustain my business. Is it getting a little clear to you, all of you?
Ma'am,
Haji.
I'm a little confused about the cash cow and dog. The market
dog
share.
I have not touched right now. Let me complete this.
No, ma'am, just the market share is reducing or it is increasing? Like
where?
Cash cow has got more
share
target.
Is moving this side. This is
So
low,
where it is large?
This is low, this is high.
Okay, I was just confused. I thought this is low, that is large. Okay.
This is low, this is high.
Okay.
That's why it is showing this way.
Okay, got it.
Okay. And
I
this
just
is
was confused about it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is industry growth, which is
this
going
I
low
understood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is like this. That's why this is arrow is showing like this. Okay. Yeah. But otherwise, are you clear till now? Then comes the question marks, this area. These represents those business units which have low market share, relative market share, but they are located in high growth industry. My market share is less somehow. So when I'm designing my strategy, I need to keep in mind that it has a potential. It has a potential, but I'm not doing well. My market share is less here. So they require huge amount of cash to maintain or grow the market share. They require my attention to determine if the venture is viable or not for me. I need to analyze. Question marks are generally those new goods and services which have good commercial perspectives, generally. So here there is no specific strategy that can be adopted. If the firm thinks that it has a dominant market share, then it can adopt an expansion strategy. Else, they will have to go for a retrenchment strategy. So here there is a question mark. What do I want to do? I need to understand my viability. I need to check my resources. I need to see whether I want to go ahead with the expansion or go ahead with the retrenchment. There is a question mark because it will need a lot of attention. This is my child which needs a lot of attention. It is definitely, now the silver lining in this question mark is that it is a fast growing industry. Industry growth is good, but I'm not doing well. For some reason, I'm not clicking. So either I go put in more money, expand, or I do away with it. That we need to see. Then is the, but now the point is, if we completely ignore these question marks, and that is what we need to see from the second stage endgame to the third stage. We are now second and the third stage. We need to keep continuously, especially in the third stage, where are question marks? Because if ignored, these question marks will become dogs. While even if huge investment is made, then they have potential of becoming, if huge investment is made, if I really take care of them at this stage, they can move to becoming star. Else they will become dogs. Because dogs represent businesses having a weak market share in low growth markets. They neither generate cash nor require huge amounts of cash. And because they have low market share, these business units face cost disadvantages because there is a low market share. So neither there is industry growth nor there is market share. So generally here we adopt more of retrenchment strategies, because these firms can gain market share only at the expense of competitor rivals of firms. Only if I'm able to compete in that particular segment, then only I can. They have weak market share because their cost is high, or they are of poor quality, or there is ineffective marketing there. So unless a dog has some strategic aim, it should be liquidated. If there is fewer prospect for it to gain market share, then it should be liquidated. Number of dogs in my portfolio should be avoided, should be minimized in an organization, because they can really cause damage to the company's profitability. So when I am talking about this BCG matrix, this kind of portfolio analysis needs to be done at each stage in the organization to see where my products lie. If it is a cash cow, it will keep giving me cash. It's a low maintenance thing. That money can be used into star products, because star products are like, they have big market share and huge potential. But star can become very quickly question marks, and question marks has the potential of becoming star. I need to see what strategy I want to apply when it comes to question marks. If I don't have the bandwidth, then I should not have the ego that because it is my product, I want to go ahead. No. I can think of liquidating it. And dogs should be avoided. So this kind of analysis, if it is done, portfolio analysis, if it is done, then it will really help me to make a pragmatic decision as far as my portfolio is concerned.
Bcg Matrix. Boston Consulting Group's BCG's growth
Can you hear this? Is it audible?
share matrix is a popular portfolio analysis technique. The matrix was developed by BCG in the 1970s for managing a portfolio of different business units. Large companies whose business is organized in SBUs face a key challenge of allocating resources among these units. Resources are allocated to business units depending on where they are situated on the graph. The BCG matrix consists of various business units of a company plotted on a graph of market growth versus market share relative to the company's competitors. Cash cows. They are business units with a large market share in a mature and slow-growing industry. Cash cows require little investment and generate cash that can be used to invest in other business units. Stars. They are business units that have a large market share in a fast-growing industry. Stars may generate cash, but due to the rapidly growing market, these business units require continuous investments. Question marks. This type of business unit is also known as the problem child. Question marks area business unit with a low market share in a high growth market. The company needs to invest in these businesses to grow its market share, but whether the investment will become a star, enjoy increased relative market share is unknown. And dogs. These business units have a small market share in a mature industry. A dog may not require substantial cash, but it ties up capital that could be invested elsewhere. Unless a dog has some special strategic purpose, it should be liquidated if there is little potential to increase its market share. Thus, BCG Matrix provides a framework for allocating resources among different business units and allows one to compare many business units of a company at a glance. Example ITC. Cash cows. FMCG cigarettes. Stars. Hotel, agribusiness, paperboard and specialty papers and packaging. Question marks. FMCG, food, personal care, education and stationery, infotech. Dogs. FMCG, safety matches, lifestyle retailing and packaged foods. Example, Parley Agro. Cash cows, fruity. Stars, Appy, Appy Fizz and Bailey, water. Question marks, Hippo and Dishoom. Dogs, Cafe Cuba.
Okay, so is it making some sense? Somewhere is it clicking? I'm sure when you will read more about this and you'll do the work, then you will know, you will be able to understand it in a better way. Okay, so now we come to blue ocean strategy. This is another very beautiful model. And if you want to know more about it, then you can read in this book. A very nice book, Blue Ocean Strategy by Chan Kim. I think every business which is successful is a blue ocean. They have followed a blue ocean strategy. They have found a blue ocean for themselves. You know, there is something known as red ocean also. There is red ocean and there is blue ocean. Red oceans are, in red oceans, industries generally, their boundaries and defined and accepted, and the comparative rules of the game are known. Here companies tries to outperform the rivals who are already there. So there you are trying to do something which, whatever you are doing in a better way, trying to outperform the rivals to grab a greater share of existing demand. Whatever is the existing pie, in that you are trying to do something better with your product or service and then outperform the rivals. Now here lies the difference between a red ocean and a blue ocean. Blue oceans are those, they are defined by the untapped market space, where you create a demand and the opportunity for highly profitable growth, something that was not there, like Uber. Uber is a classic example of a blue ocean strategy. Till Uber came, everybody was trying to work in red ocean. But Uber was a completely breakthrough thing. They made their own, they were actually getting into an untapped market space. They created a demand for themselves. They got into the shoes of the customer and they understood before the customers actually realized themselves that it is possible, and made it possible. Mobile phone. Mobile phone, ever since it came into existence, till whatever we see today, it's all tapping into, of course, not now. Now we are just playing in the red ocean. But for a very long time, till smartphones came in, and whatever the face of this thing is. See, it has eradicated radios, telephone, of course, the entire greeting card industry, the entire all your letters, mails, everything, WhatsApp just made everything so easy. Connectivity so easy. So it gave new dimension to the entire connectivity scenario. Watches. If I don't wear a watch, I don't need to wear a watch if I have my mobile phone. I also don't need to go to a bank. That is also there in my mobile phone. So all this, the kind of changes that we have seen, these needs were always there. All this was a blue ocean, which somebody or the other kept tapping into. Value innovation is a cornerstone of blue ocean strategy. And why we call it value innovation? Because instead of focusing on beating the competition, here you are focusing on making the competition irrelevant by creating another leap. Value innovation, what we talk about, it generally happens only when companies align innovation with utility, price, and cost position. So value innovation, if you see your Uber example also, not getting into many examples, if we see our Uber example also, there was a value innovation there. They were not trying to beat the competition. There was no competition. You made the competition irrelevant. It is another leap, another dimension, another orbit that we moved into. And there was a price, utility, and cost. Price, utility, and cost. These three have to come together. It should fit into the minds of the consumer. Price, utility, and cost, which is known as value innovation. It is generally, when we are talking about value innovation, it is created in the region where a company's actions favorably affect both its cost structure and its value proposition to the buyers. And when we are talking about cost savings here, they are made by eliminating and reducing the factors that an industry competes on. Buyer value is generally lifted by raising and creating elements in the industry which has never been offered. So buyer value is lifted by raising and creating elements in the industry. So if you take your Uber example, there were elements which were created in the model which actually where the buyer value got lifted. And it was never offered before in the industry. And over time, when we keep doing this, the costs are reduced further as scales of economies starts kicking in. So when such products are offered, soon you realize that you start achieving scales of economy. And when scales of economy starts kicking in, I have high sales. My sales volume go high. Cost gets reduced. And I'm able to deliver a superior value. Superior value generally gets generated out of such products when we follow this strategy. So if you look at this diagram also, growth focus, value creation thinking. So it starts with customers' needs. Just take Uber's example and all this will get very clear to you. So somebody had thought about customers' needs first. Look beyond traditional markets, industries and competitors. That those gaps. And then develop growth platforms. How do you develop growth platforms? Consumer need and market trends. Most of the businesses fail when we are not able to understand consumer needs and market trends. Both. So these have to be kept in mind when we talk about value creation thinking. And then basis this, what we just spoke about, create value. How do you create value? By getting this utility price cost equation right. Your initiatives should be designed in such a way that utility, price, and cost, the value equation automatically will come right. And from there, the value creation will happen. Cost and value. And there lies the value innovation. It's always a product, somewhere an amalgamation of the intersection of these two. Cost, which I'm incurring, value that I am delivering. The intersection of two, there the value innovation will happen. And of course, after that, the execution part of it. So this is a blue ocean strategy. It's very difficult to encapsulate this entire essence. I think we'll need 4 lectures only to understand this blue ocean strategy. And you can read this book if you really want to understand this entire. In fact, there are more books. I have one more because it's an excellent way, and they have given a lot of examples. There is one example in this in one of the videos also, which is from where this entire concept of blue ocean started. So it has been captured in this video, which you are just going to see. But if you see any of the product or service which clicked with the consumers, they were all trying to tap into some blue ocean. You must have read these books, Built to Last and In Search of Excellence. These are 2 very cult books, business books. All the examples that are used there, they were all blue oceans. But after the book was released few years after that or sometime after that, those companies, they were either not doing well or they were not there. So they were at one point of time, they did tap into blue oceans. But then something kept coming up and the market entrance and the market space keeps changing. So at any given point of time, if you're thinking of business, then never think that it's the end or the saturation. It's just that I am not able to figure out what is that untapped area. Because if 20 years back somebody would have, or 10 years or 5 years or 2 years back, if somebody would have thought that this is the end in this particular industry, then innovation wouldn't have happened. But if we keep identifying this and we keep getting this price, utility, and cost equation right, and keep tapping into new market spaces, then we will continue to create blue oceans.
Have you heard of Cirque Du Soleil? It is a French name which translates to English as Circus of the Sun. It is a Canadian circus company that simply made circus a winning proposition for itself in spite of a declining circus industry. Why was the circus industry considered a loser? It was because star performers had a lot of power over the company. Other forms of entertainment, from sports to home entertainment systems, were relatively less expensive and on the rise. Moreover, animal rights groups were putting a lot of pressure on circuses because of the treatment of animals. Since the circus industry was considered unattractive, how did Cirque Du Soleil redefine the dynamics of this industry? Cirque Du Soleil did this by eliminating the animals and reducing the importance of individual stars. It created a new form of entertainment which combined dance, music, and athletic skill to appeal to a classy adult audience that had abandoned the traditional circus. It used the blue ocean strategy. Let's plot the strategy canvas and apply the 4-action framework for Cirque Du Soleil to see how exactly this magic was done. The competitors were Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey, and other regional circuses. The x-axis shows the various benefits to the customers, such as price, star performers, multiple arenas, and so on. The red lines represent the perceived performance of the competitors for each of the benefits. As you can see, while the competition performed well for benefits like star performers, animal show, multiple arenas, they didn't do well for others such as theme, artistic music, dance. Let's dive deeper and go into the 4-action framework to help understand how they created a calm blue ocean, which represents an uncrowded market space. First, reduce. Cirque Du Soleil reduced much of the thrill and danger associated with conventional circuses. Second, eliminate. In the case of Cirque Du Soleil, it eliminated animals, star performers, and multiple show arenas. Third, create. Cirque Du Soleil introduced dramatic themes, artistic music, dance, and a more upscale, refined environment. And fourth, raise. Cirque Du Soleil increased the uniqueness of the venue by developing its own tents rather than performing within the confines of existing venues. While the red lines indicate rivalry and competition, the blue line in the graph represents Cirque Du Soleil. It reflects all these changes that have come out of applying the 4-action framework for Cirque Du Soleil. it clearly shows how it is different compared to its competitors. Amazing, isn't it? Another fascinating aspect of Cirque Du Soleil's success is that it did not win by taking customers from the already shrinking circus industry, which generally catered to children. Instead, it created uncontested market space that made the competition irrelevant. It appealed to a whole new group of customers, adults, corporate clients, who were prepared to pay a price several times more than what was paid for traditional circuses. This is the blue ocean that I have been talking about. They paid for a unique entertainment experience. Significantly, one of the first Cirque productions was titled "We Reinvent the Circus." Cirque's production have been seen by over 150 million spectators in more than 300 cities around the world. In less than 20 years since its creation, Cirque Du Soleil achieved a level of revenue that took Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey, the once global champions of the circus industry, more than 100 years to attain. Remember, the goal is not to beat the competition, but to make the competition irrelevant, which is the core of the Blue Ocean strategy. You will find that there is a little bit of Blue Ocean strategy in almost every successful new venture. To Blue Ocean strategy, I will add something I picked up from a statement by Peter Thiel, the legendary Silicon Valley entrepreneur and investor. Find out what you strongly believe about your industry, which no one else believes in, and make that the basis for your startup. So go and find your blue ocean.
In 1984, Guy Laliberté co-founded Cirque Du Soleil. Soon, Cirque was bringing in revenues that incumbents like Ringling Brothers had taken more than a century to attain, even though the circus business was in long-term decline. How did Cirque thrive in such a dismal environment? The answer can be found in the theory that the business universe consists of two kinds of markets: red oceans and blue oceans, a concept pioneered by INSEAD professors W. Chan Kim and René Beauborn. Red oceans represent existing industries and markets, where industry boundaries and the rules of competition are well defined. Companies strive to outperform rivals and grab a bigger share of existing demand. As the space gets crowded, fierce competition turns the water bloody. Competitive or market competing strategy is about how to occupy red oceans. By contrast, blue ocean or market creating strategy is about how to create and capture unknown markets where demand is created rather than fought over. In some cases, this spawns entirely new industries. But most blue oceans emerge when a company alters the boundaries of an existing industry, as when Cirque Du Soleil blurred the line between circus and theatre. Cirque made the acts more artistic and sophisticated, attracting a whole new group of customers, adults who are prepared to pay premium ticket prices as they would for the theatre or the opera. Cirque also eliminated several elements of the traditional circus like costly animal acts and star performers. Cirque invented a new and profitable market space without making the typical trade-off between value and cost. Cirque pursued both differentiation and low cost in what Kim and Beauborn call value innovation. The simultaneous pursuit of value and cost is the logic of blue ocean strategy. Based on their study of more than 30 industries, companies that can create blue oceans usually reap the benefits for 10 to 15 years because they are hard for rivals to copy. To realize blue ocean potential like Cirque did, companies should chart a strategic course past traditional industry boundaries to create new market space.
So, anybody would like to share anything? Any observation, anything that you want to say? We have another 5-7 minutes. Instead of me starting a new model, we are left with few more.
Ma'am, I want to share one yesterday only experience I had.
Yeah.
I was watching that movie of Saina Nehwal, you know. So there in one game, you know, she is being, there in a tie-up is going on between the two opponents. And then she says, you know, like the other person has actually mirrored or known her natural playing game, how she plays, the way she plays. Then she says, now I have to change my strategy. I have to get some uniqueness. I have to do something which I have not done before if I want to beat her. You know, and there I remembered you know, when I heard the word strategy, like, you know, creating the uniqueness which nobody is aware of or which nobody can predict. And then she wins the game. You know, so I could apply that exactly what you're saying, strategies, creating uniqueness. You know, similarly, I could resonate with this blue ocean and red ocean strategy. It is creating something unique, something new, something different. So as to, you know, that line I really liked it, that make the competition irrelevant. You know, just you think on that line where you don't have to beat the competition, but you have to do something different. So it was a very beautiful
different and create a demand for yourself.
Yes, yes.
Create a new place, completely new market space for yourself.
Yes.
And all this is possible.
Yes.
All this is possible. Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody would like to share anything? The ground is open now. For enough of talking from my end today. No. Anybody?
Ma'am, just my own experience. I'm just sharing that. It's like when you talked about blue ocean strategy, that is something that I have read, but was not able to understand at that moment because being into corporate and busy, and it was just like, yeah, there is a strategy named blue ocean strategy. But today, when you're talking about it, I feel that I am creating my own blue ocean strategy because being into red ocean for so long, being 15, 16 years, now it is more of like creating uniqueness for my own self so that later on I can get into something wherein, as mentioned, that, you know, that the competition will be there, but make it more irrelevant and more relevant for your own self. So how that scope can be, you know, taken care of, how to make market for your own self. So being a life coach, getting into this particular thing, I think this is a step wherein creating my own blue ocean strategy.
Yeah, yeah. All the best.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody? If you will not speak, then I will not know where we stand. There are few people who are like, I know that they are speaking and they are there, but then there are some who are not speaking. Of course, I know all of you are listening and everything, but anything, it may be relevant to this or whatever you want to share. Yeah, Janvi, you want to say anything? Anything that touched you?
Hello, ma'am. Good morning. Yeah. Yeah. So, thank you so much, first of all, for introducing this completely new concept to us. It was totally new for me. I'm like, I heard this like terminologies for the first time, like blue ocean strategy. But I really liked the example that you gave us regarding the circus part. That the sentence that where he says that firstly we need to understand and believe what is our strong point and then work upon it. Then all the strategies come into what we can say picture.
Yes.
First, that belief is very important. That's.
And you know, this belief thing also has a journey. First, you start with trust. When I just and the trust somewhere maybe started when you maybe heard about the course, or maybe you heard about somebody just helps us with getting us till there. That is a trust. You entrusted yourself. And then when we start creating an experience for ourselves in that particular space, wherever we are, from there the belief thing starts. which has to culminate into faith. So
True.
even this belief thing has a journey. Always starts with trust. I entrust myself with somebody or with some concept or with some institution or something. Then when I start creating my own experience, then it is belief. And when I am able to speak with conviction and when I'm all sold to that, then it is faith. So belief is very important. And when belief, if there is no belief in my concept and in this thing, then the passion won't come. That is very
true. True. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Come on, one last word from everybody. Anything you want to say? Yes, Harshada. Anything?
Good morning, ma'am. So the class was so interesting today because the strategies, like, they left a curiosity kida in our mind. Now I'm thinking every successful person, what did he thought about, what strategy he applied, and he became so unique and so influential, and he is inspiring many people. So like that.
So it triggered a thought process in you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you should read few books, Harshada. That will give you an insight into, like we have been mentioning about In Search of Excellence, Built to Last. You can read, or any book, like Elephants Dance and all those books which are there. It's a beautiful story on IBM. So you can read those books and then you will come to have more insight into what these people who have been doing all this successfully, what software was running in their minds. You will get all that and you will understand that there are the challenges all of us face, similar challenges and many more challenges they also face. It's just that they were resilient.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So, like Ujjwala ma'am talked about Saina Nehwal. So she doesn't know any of these strategies, but she had applied that.
No, they have been, not these, but if you will see that this entire strategy as a subject, somewhere or the other, we have been applying in our life. We have been. Maybe they were not so structured, but we have been applying. So it all starts from individual self. It starts from self.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yes, anybody else?
Yes, ma'am. I will just share a few things. Like, I learned all these things in my MBA days, and from that day onwards, the BCG matrix, which we have seen, I have been implementing it in my personal life, because from 2012 onwards or 8 onwards, I was doing so many things. Like, I was passionate, and I'm still passionate about teaching. So that is my cash cow kind of stuff, which gives me earning. And I continuously do new experiments. Like, nowhere near I was into land development and selling business. So from 5 years, I'm doing that. I'm understanding the things. I did huge investment in that. And right now it's in some sort of question mark kind of things. So I have a huge portfolio of multiple kind of businesses I'm doing, and I always try to put them into this BCG matrix, and I have been practicing it from last 10 years, you can say. So such things I'm doing.
Very nice, Vaibhav. You can be a real good asset to our class with your experiences, real life experiences. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Niriksha says there's a lot of construction noise, so she won't be able to speak. But she says a business also comes to a stagnancy with their way establishment. So Blue Ocean strategy is a change point for the business for the strategies that were being implemented. Thank you, Niriksha. Who's left now? Ishita, would you like to say anything?
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are very much audible. Dear.
Yeah, like for me, I would say it was a really helpful thing because I never understand business terminologies and everything. It's just like a far thing for me. And whenever there used to be conversation, in fact, in my house also, I never understood it with like my father. But now after it, I am understanding it, and I'm in a place where I can also give some input regarding it.
That is very important.
Yes, ma'am, that's what
What I feel is that whenever we do anything, it should get reflected in our outer behavior. That is very important in our interactions, in the way we behave. Otherwise, it's all theory. It's absolutely, even if whatever we are reading, whatever we are studying, whatever we are doing, like how Weber said that, he has been applying BCG matrix in his business, that is just one thing. But whatever, and your space is extremely dynamic when it comes to emotional intelligence and life coaching. So whatever you are doing, if you start, you're in second sem right now, there is another 2 sems to go. So all those things, or few things, not all, but even if 50%, whatever you are learning, if you're able to put it in your practice, in yourself, then uniqueness, you will not have to look for uniqueness, you will become unique at the end of. So don't take this entire curriculum as a theory or something that you would do to others, because I can only make a difference to others if I am different, if I have something in myself. So first start applying and experimenting on yourself. That is, I think, very, and then this entire course and entire curriculum will show in you. Then you really don't have to work. Half your job is already done of creating uniqueness in yourself. And this course, I'm sure, gives you a lot of opportunity. If you have not started doing it, start doing it. Even if it starts from self-awareness, then you should have your own way of creating and thinking that how I can create that self-awareness. And therefore, I told you in the first class itself, start reading. Start becoming your business environment. You should know. After 2 years, when you graduate, you don't know you are in what world you will be. So if you are working only in that particular space in which you are and you don't know what is happening around, then you will be like, you will be in a person put in one cell. But you have to create a range for yourself. That is very important. Creating a range for yourself, because you will be a life coach. You need to understand your thing in the world from 360 degree. So you also start creating a range for yourself, and in that, this business strategy and will really help you. So start reading, start creating that range for yourself, and I'm sure success will come to all of you. Thank you very much. Until we meet next, Ujjwala, please, we'll talk offline, and please coordinate for last week's lecture that we missed. Okay, I won't be able to take the lecture this week, but we can definitely plan for next week. Okay, so we will plan for next week one extra lecture. Extra meaning we will compensate at least for that, and then let's see where we go. Okay, this week, no, I won't be able to take more lectures next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.